Richmond fans. The AFL trade period is finally here. I'm keen to see how we go in the trade period. I just wanted to chat quick about it, with a couple of players leaving, some draft picks that we're getting in, maybe even some trade targets, and just some overall thoughts. So let's get into the video. So first of all, I'll start with the players that are leaving. So I'm going to start with Baker and Graham as one. So obviously at the start of this week, Andrew McQualter was named as West Coast's new coach, and congratulations to him. He's a former coach for us. Good to see he's got a head job somewhere. Hopefully, he does a good job at West Coast. And then obviously Baker and Graham have requested trades now to West Coast. So good for them. Not good for us, particularly losing Baker. He's probably my favourite player at the club. Not just because we've got the same name, but it's the way he goes about it. He's a real heart and soul player. He can play any position. He's just great to watch. I can say so much good about him. And then Graham's obviously been pretty important for us for a number of years as well. Although I feel like he kind of sort of 2019, 2020 when we were good, he was pretty good. And then since then, he's kind of sort of plateaued. But he's moving on. They're both going to West Coast, so that is interesting stuff. Speaking of players moving west, the other one is Shai Bolton. Now, he hasn't nominated whether he's going to go to Fremantle or West Coast. From what I can understand, I think he's probably more likely to end up at Fremantle. I think the financial side is probably what's going to get him there. Again, another great player for the club. He's probably the most talented player we have on the list in terms of things that he can do in his ability on the field. One thing that kind of annoyed me a bit with him at times this year was his attitude wasn't great. Like, we knew Baker was going to leave pretty early on in the season. Bolton, there was rumours around, and you could just see, at least for me, I thought, some of the way that he played was kind of like, I don't really want to be here. I'm not going to give my 100%. But still, great player. Nevertheless, he's going to be a massive loss out of our team. Yeah, we're not sure where he's exactly going to end up, but I think if I had to say, it's probably Fremantle first. If not, he stays with us. He is still contracted, so we can hold him to his contract if we don't get the deal that we want. I don't see him ending up at West Coast if they're already trying to get two players of ours and other deals that they're trying to work on. I think, I just don't see them getting it done. Then the last one that's leaving is Daniel Rioli. He's going to reunite at Gold Coast with former coach Damien Hardwick. Another really class player to lose. He's just going to won our best and fairest the other day. Baker and Bolton both finished in the top five. So top five, top six, because Baker and Bolton were actually tied fifth. Six of our top players, three of them requested trades out of the club. So that's not ideal. Dan Rioli's a pretty hard one to place off that half-back line. He's been incredible since he moves back there. His run and carry off there, his defensive pressure, it's really great. He's going to be sorely missed. Obviously, it shows he was our best player this season. I think he was our only player to play every game of the season, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to double-check that fact. So he's going to head off. So next thing I want to talk about is draft picks. So obviously, with these players, we're going to be looking to get some sort of draft compensation in for them. Because the biggest problem that I'm seeing at the moment is obviously no other players really want to come to our team, which is not ideal, but not all bad. We've obviously got pick one locked up from finishing last on the ladder, unfortunately, but not all bad because we get pick one. And it seems pretty clear that we're going to go in with the strategy of we want to get as many draft picks as we can. It's going to be a pretty good move knowing that the Tassie team's coming in a couple of years and they're going to take a heap of picks. So we may as well hit the draft now while we can. And we've got a really great opportunity with, unfortunately, these players leaving. But, crisis creates opportunity. That's what I hope. I'm trying to take a positive spin on all of this, as I always do. But, as far as who we're going to get with pick one, I think Jagger Smith is going to be the guy that we go for. From the limited footage that I've seen on him, everything that I've read about him and I've heard about him, he seems like he's an absolute gun. He's probably the top choice for it. Finn O'Sullivan is maybe another one. I'm not too sure. But I think that we're going to take Jagger. I don't know. He's played a couple games in our VFL side as well during the year too. So, really excited to see him. As far as what else we do with the draft picks, I think a couple more elite mids would be nice, but really we need to go after a few ready-made footballers. Guys, can come in and can play at the level straight away. Jag is obviously one of them. There's a few other players that we can look at. it'll all depend what sort of picks we have and what sort of players are available when they come up on the board. Um, I feel like a few key position players could always be good. I feel like more key forwards would be better. I think we've got not too bad down back. I feel like, yeah, our forward line is, yeah, a bit where we need the most work. Rock's pretty good. Nank's there. He's pretty solid. Um, but yeah, that's really what we need, because obviously we're going to have to play a younger list now. With all this experience that's gone out the door, you got to mention guys like Dusty and Dylan Grimes that have just retired in the last season as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how we use our draft picks. But I think, yeah, ready-made footballers, a few elite mids, and if I'm picking who we get with pick one, I'm going to say it's Jagger. As far as trade targets, as I've said, it's kind of hard because no one really wants to come to us with just coming off our worst season in history, 2 wins. And it doesn't look like we're going to be getting better anytime soon, if I'm being brutally honest. But I did pick 3 players that I think we should maybe have a look at. First one is Matt Kennedy from Carlton. He's been told he can explore his options. So obviously he's a bit down in that packing order with Carlton because they've got a pretty stacked midfield. One good thing about him is he can play a variety of different roles. He can play on ball, but he can go up forward and kick a few goals. He can play more of a defensive role. Also, if he's gettable, I think that he's someone we could get. He's an experienced player. He's played with good teams, and he can play that variety of roles for us as well. Another player I think we should look at is Elijah Sisters. I think that's how you pronounce his last name, from Essendon. Um, hasn't quite cracked it into Essendon's first team, but I remember hearing about him when he was drafted a couple of years ago. He seems like an absolute gun. Again, footage that I've seen of him, he looks like he could be a really good player. He's a guy that could come in, really get some opportunity, and hope to play some of his best football for us if he was to come across. I'd say he'd nearly be the top target that we should try get. Again, I'm not sure if there's anything to that, but we'll have to wait and see. Then the other one's obviously James Peatling. I think he's a class footballer. I'm not too sure why the Giants are getting rid of him, but apparently he's not in their best 22. Interesting stuff. There's a fair few people that are going after him, though. As much as, he's someone I'd like to see us get, kind of similar to Kennedy, he can play a variety of different roles. And, he's an experienced body, experienced mid. Just not quite sure we'll land in. As far as like a trade that we could make, though, one player that I was kind of looking at and thinking, could we maybe cash in on him now, is Tom Lynch. I know this may divide a few people. Tom Lynch, as his trade has gone, honestly, he started really well. He came into the best team, and he did his job. He kicked a bag of goals. He made us look good. That was probably his first 3 years. Then the next 3 years, it's been pretty injury ravaged for him. He hasn't played a lot of football, and when he has played, he hasn't been at his best, unfortunately. But Tom Lynch is still one of the guys who can be a real supreme forward. I know I've just said we need key position players, but I feel like he's someone that we could maybe move on, bring someone different in, maybe if it's someone younger. For whatever reason, I was thinking Melbourne was someone that we were potentially swapping with. They need, obviously, someone up forward. Maybe if we could steal someone like Van Ruin from him, that would be really cool, because I think he's got huge potential for the future. And, obviously, if we're going in with a younger team, if we can have a younger team that builds together over 5-6 years, who knows what's going to happen that time down the track. A lot of people are using the Hawthorn model as something after, when they had their great success and then they fell off for a bit. Now they're starting to come back. I feel like that's what we've kind of got to look at. It's going to take a bit of time. Our superstars have gone out the door. So I've mentioned like Dusty and Grimes. You obviously got Kochi and Jack last year. So we're going to have to rebuild, get some younger guys games. Maybe making a smart move with Tom Lynch now is the way to go. But anyway, my overall thoughts of the trade period, it's pretty clear that the rebuild starts now with, more quality players walking out the door. Baker, Graham, Bolton, Rioli. We're going to get some good draft picks in. We're going to have to make some really smart decisions on who we bring to the club. We can get some really high quality players in, some really high quality young guns. So I'm really excited to see what happens there. Honestly, though, it is going to take time. I do think that we're not going to be fantastic straight away. I can see us being in the bottom 4, honestly, for 2, maybe even 3 seasons while we figure it out. You got to take into account, obviously, players and experience is one thing, but, all the coaching changes, CEO changes, board changes, all of that stuff plays effect. One thing I do want to mention, though, is to not put too much blame on our coach, Adam Yuse. I see a few people slam him and giving him a hard go. You've got to remember he's walked into this club where all these players are coming out. He's a brand new coach to the game. Yeah, you mentioned all the board and the CEO support. That's gone straight away. He's lost other coaches. He's barely had a fit list all season. I would be surprised if we played the same 22, any week of this season or the season that's just gone rather. So I wouldn't go too hard on Uze. I think we've got to give him a bit of a chance next year. Bring in some players in the draft, maybe a couple other players through trade or free agency or something else. I'm not sure. Build the team that he wants. Get the sort of game plan that he wants. Hopefully, we can keep him fit, and hopefully, we can start playing consistent football with the same team. As I said, I do think it's going to take time, but the rebuild starts now. That's what we're going to have to do. So, yeah, don't put it too hard on the coach. Those are my quick thoughts about Richmond and our trade period, what I want to see, what I think is going to happen. I'll do another video once the trade period's done, reviewing what's actually happened, who's gone, who's come in, what we've got, and then, heading into the draft. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit the sub button for more.